Hey, 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 Dr. Joe from Atlanta. Welcome to my channel, To Your Wellness for Life, where we discuss all 9 pillars of wellness. Wellness is a state of being, and health, good health or disease-free health is the state of body. So, all right, today's topic is going to be actually a little fun, and it's the do's and don'ts of dinner party talk. So we just finished Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving weekend is almost over, and we're heading into the holiday season. We're going to be looking forward to Christmas and New Year's, and I actually have an wedding anniversary in the middle of all that. So lots of things to celebrate. And if you haven't already, you probably have, but this is the time when people get together. They have parties, office parties, family get-togethers, friends get together. And have you wondered the do's and don'ts of dinner party talk? You know, and the theme basically is the more diverse the group, the more careful you need to be. And the further you get away from family, you know, family's probably going to forgive you for saying stupid things. Strangers may not, and it may actually hurt your reputation, or maybe actually even get you fired. So my plan tonight is to kind of talk about that subject first in just kind of generalities, and then we're going to hone down and get into some more specifics. All right. So in general, you want to avoid kind of negative things, and you want to pursue positive things. People in general don't want to hang around negative people. They want to be around positive people, especially this time of year. And you want to avoid controversial topics. Boy, do we have a long list of controversial topics now, from wearing the mask to all sorts of other things. I don't even want to name the specifics of it, because it's also good on social media to probably practice some social media etiquette and maybe even avoid some things. You want to strike a balance, and you want to actually avoid being too opinionated. You want to avoid being defensive. And if you notice that you're starting to become defensive, it's probably time to change the subject. And you may want to just to keep things friendly, you might want to just politely agree to disagree. All right, so the first thing you want to do is to kind of assess the situation and assess the people that are at the gathering. So whether it's your family or your office or friends or church friends, you want to find, how diverse that group is, and that will kind of maybe set the tone. You also, number 2, want to set the bar high enough at first, and you may actually want to set some ground rules. So if this is a group or family, and what comes to mind is my family, we like to talk politics. My mom and dad, especially my dad, love to talk politics. I have 3 sisters. One of them is more conservative like me. 2 of them are more liberal, left-leaning. And when we get together, we tend to have pretty heated discussions. And probably in situations like that, it may actually be good to lay the ground rules and say, we're not going to talk about, and the 2 subjects that most people recommend avoiding are politics and religion, and to kind of gravitate more towards the weather and sports and things like that. And finally, don't let the setting be an excuse. If you invite your boss and you say something wrong, it could get you fired. So you want to follow the golden rule: do unto others, say unto others what you want to have said to yourself. All right, so let's get into a little bit more of a specifics. There's actually 9 very specific things that you want to avoid that might actually lead to some really weird conversations. So the first 3, the theme there is inappropriate and gross things. And the first one there is gender-specific problems to the opposite sex. So I could think of, guys, especially, if you're in a group with guys, I guess you could talk about guy things, and girls could talk about girl things. But when you start getting a mixed gender group there, girls talking about PMS, when there's guys there, maybe make them feel a little uncomfortable. And guys talking about erectile dysfunction may actually be a little inappropriate. Number two, strange things that our bodies do or medical conditions. You want to avoid that, especially when it involves fluid kind of things. So you may not want to discuss your latest colon cleanse at a dinner party. And the third one, under inappropriate and gross things, you want to avoid sex in detail. So those are the three things that are inappropriate and kind of gross. Number four, some things people just don't want to know a lot about. So I know you may get very passionate about a new hobby that you've embraced, and you may just want to go on and on and on. You need to watch their body language, and their body language may tell you, you know, they've kind of had enough. So maybe it's time to put a limit to that discussion and move on to something else. Number five, other people's children and what they should do to them. You know, unless someone specifically asks you advice about child rearing, you probably want to stay away from that. And so that's kind of the third one that I've added to the politics and religion thing, is not to discuss child rearing, especially now that we've got this millennial generation having children. And I have 3 millennials, and they're pretty good, but I still remember coaching my son's soccer teams and early on in their baseball teams. Whether we won or lost, we always at the end of the season had a big party, and they got big trophies. They had a big pizza party and cake and all this stuff. Whether you won or lost, it just sent the wrong message that no matter what your effort, no matter what the end result is, you're going to get rewarded. So now we have those individuals rearing children. And what brought this to my attention was an article in the paper last week. And John Roseman is a psychologist, mostly child psychologist, and he has a column in the Saturday's AJC. And I ran into something that says grandparents are fed up. And basically, a lady wrote into him and said her 4-year-old grandson, when he is with her and her husband, he is very well behaved because they're kind of old school, like John Roseman, very disciplined. They tell him yes or no, you can't do this or you can do this. But when this kid is around his parents, especially his mother or this lady's daughter, he is very misbehaved. And she has spoken up and said something to the daughter, and this has not been well received, and now they are no longer on speaking terms. And John Roseman's comment is that this mother probably is not very secure or confident in what she's doing, and that unfortunately is the state of all too many American moms these days. That's a subject all in and of itself, but probably this, unless someone specifically asks you for child rearing advice, you probably want to stay away from that. All right, number 6, the party and what's wrong with it. You know, if your boss is having a party and his wife is there, or you're invited there, you probably don't want to be too critical about anything there. The food, it might get you into trouble. Number 7, you want to stay away from controversial jokes. Especially now, you know, ethnic and racial jokes, you probably just leave that aside. And even if you think it's a benign joke, you may want to kind of stay away from it. Number 8, you want to avoid money type talks, especially now where people's jobs are on the lines, they're furloughed, or they are been laid off and money's tight. You may want to not be talking about money or bragging about money. Because people are struggling right now. And then number 9, the final one, is talking about someone's age. Unless you are complimentary and you err on complimenting an older person, oh, how young they look, you probably want to stay away from the age thing. So the do's and don'ts of dinner party talk, you can apply that probably to social media talk. You want to have good etiquette. You want to stay away from inappropriate and gross things, especially when they have to do with the opposite gender, medical conditions, talking about sex. You don't want to go on and on and on about your new hobby. You don't want to give child rearing advice unless you're specifically asked for it. You don't want to be critical of the party, even if there's something that's not right. Stay away from controversial jokes and controversial subject. Leave the money talk aside. And unless you can compliment somebody on their age, you want to stay from that. All right. So the more diverse the group is, you want to avoid any kind of negative talk. You want to stay positive, avoid controversial topics. So I hope you found this helpful. We're heading into the holiday season. Tomorrow's Monday. I believe some kids are going to be going back to school. We're going to be going back to work. And remember, if there's anything that you need to change in your life, you want to make the decision to change it. You want to be consistent with it, and you don't want to quit. So on that note, I wish you all a wonderful evening, and we'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye.